I had always believed that loyalty meant something. For the last 14 years, my world had revolved around one thing: the company I helped build from the ground up. I still remember the first day I walked through those glass doors, fresh out of college, full of dreams and naive hope. Back then, we were a struggling startup, barely 5 people squeezed into a dusty office, eating noodles for lunch and working late into the night. But we had heart, and I had fire. I wasn't the smartest guy in the room, but no one could match my dedication. I poured my soul into every pitch, every client meeting, every sleepless night of revisions and broken coffee machines. I missed birthdays, anniversaries, vacations, all for the company. And slowly, things began to change. One successful campaign turned into 10. Clients returned, referrals came in, and within 5 years, we were no longer a struggling startup. We were a recognized name, expanding offices, onboarding big clients, and competing with major firms. And I was at the heart of it all. My ideas, my strategies, my long hours. I became the guy who could fix anything, the one the founders trusted blindly. People came and went, trends changed, but I stayed. I was the constant. I was the one who helped shape the culture, mentor the interns, carry the load when others gave up. My name was never on the front page, but inside those walls, I had become the backbone. So when the rumors started about a leadership restructure, I didn't think much of it. In fact, I welcomed it. Maybe a fresh perspective would help us scale even faster. I wasn't insecure. I had earned my place. I had proof. Results. Loyalty. Then came the announcement. A cold email on a Wednesday morning. Meet your new CEO, Mr. Daniel Grayson. I stared at the screen, blinking. Grayson? Who was he? No introduction, no meeting, no transition, just a message and a name. Within hours, his posters were up. Sleek jawline, polished suit, that typical corporate smile with empty eyes. I Googled him. Harvard grad, investment background, had flipped a few companies before, but nothing about loyalty, nothing about building from the roots. He was the kind who came to take credit, to optimize, to cut fat, and somewhere deep inside me, a cold shiver ran down my spine. The next few days were like a strange fog. No one knew what was happening. Our old founders had quietly stepped down, cashing out. Daniel never introduced himself. He never asked for a meeting, not even a hello in the hallway. It was like we didn't exist. And then the changes started. Small things at first. Security cards stopped working for a few old employees. Department heads were being reshuffled. My junior, whom I had mentored for 4 years, was suddenly getting pulled into meetings I wasn't invited to. Still, I stayed calm. It's just transition jitters, I told myself. They'll realize who I am soon. But what I didn't know, what I couldn't imagine, was that the man I had never even met had already made a decision about me, a decision that would tear everything apart. It happened on a Monday, a gray morning, the kind that carries a strange weight in the air, as if the clouds themselves are whispering that something is about to go wrong. I came into the office like always, early. I still believed that my commitment would mean something in this new era. Maybe I just needed to prove myself again, show this new CEO the value I brought. I had already prepared a proposal, a detailed strategy that could bring in 3 potential clients I had personally nurtured. But before I could even sit at my desk, I was summoned. Daniel wants to see you now. That was it. No smile, no greeting, just a flat message from his assistant. I walked into the top floor corner office, a place that used to belong to the founder who once called me his right hand. But now it smelled of new leather and imported cologne. Daniel Grayson sat behind the massive glass desk, tapping away at his phone like I was some delivery boy disturbing his peace. He didn't look up. "Sit," he said, finally glancing at me as if I were a mild inconvenience. I sat, confused but composed. "You've been here a long time," he began. I nodded. 14 years. He didn't respond to that, just a short breath, almost like a sigh of boredom, then the words that shattered everything. "Your position is being terminated, effective immediately. HR will handle your exit package." At first, I thought I misheard him. I blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "We're restructuring," he said, leaning back like this was just routine. Nothing personal. Nothing personal? 14 years of my life, countless sacrifices, nights I slept on the office couch, clients I fought for, campaigns I led when everyone else quit, and it was nothing personal? My hands trembled slightly. I could feel heat rising to my face, the kind that comes when betrayal slices through your chest. I tried to speak, to defend my... "Look, Jason," he said, finally using my name like a knife dipped in ice. "You're part of the old guard. This company needs fresh blood, lean thinking, not emotional baggage. Don't make this harder than it has to be." I wasn't just being fired. I was being erased. By the time I walked out of that office, my legs felt hollow. The hallway that once felt like home now looked unfamiliar, cold. People watched from behind their screens, pretending not to see. But I knew. They all knew. No farewell, no thank you. Just a cold escort by HR and a cardboard box with my name on it. I sat in my car for hours after that. Not crying, not thinking. Just empty. How could someone who had never known my struggle, never seen my dedication, decide I didn't belong anymore? The betrayal cut deeper than I expected. It wasn't just a job. It was my identity. And he stripped it from me in minutes. My reputation, my pride, my years of hard work, wiped clean like chalk off a board. But then came something else. Not just pain, not just anger, something darker, something more dangerous. The need for revenge, not the loud, petty kind, but the cold, calculated kind that grows in silence, that waits, that watches. He thought I was finished. He thought he could bury me. But Daniel Grayson was about to learn something the hard way. You don't destroy the man who built the foundation without expecting the whole structure to come crashing down. For the first few days, I didn't get out of bed. Sleep came in broken pieces. My phone buzzed with messages I didn't want to answer. A few sympathetic coworkers, one or two friends who heard what happened and offered hollow condolences. I didn't respond to any of them. I wasn't ready to talk. I was still drowning in betrayal. I kept replaying that moment. Daniel's face, his voice, the way he said nothing personal. It echoed in my mind like a cruel joke. I had given this company everything, and he had handed me back a box and a security escort, like I was just disposable. I wasn't just angry, I was humiliated, but anger can only consume you for so long before it begins to reshape itself into resolve. By the end of the week, something inside me clicked, not loudly, not all at once, but like a slow, rising storm. I sat alone at the kitchen table, staring at the photo of our first team. 5 of us standing in front of that tiny office space all those years ago. My eyes drifted to mine, younger, hopeful, fearless. That version of me hadn't died. He had just been pushed into the shadows. That's when I opened my laptop. At first, I didn't know what I was looking for. My thoughts were scattered, random flashes of revenge. Expose him online, hack into the system, call a reporter. But every idea felt like noise, impulsive, childish, beneath me. I didn't want to destroy him recklessly. I wanted to dismantle him intelligently, piece by piece, calculated, precise, untraceable. But even then, something held me back. A voice in my head whispered, "You're not like him." And it was true. I wasn't a monster in a suit. I had built something with love, with integrity. I couldn't just throw that away by becoming someone else. So I took a breath, and instead of rushing into vengeance, I made a promise to myself. My revenge would be clean. No lies, no crimes, just the truth, used like a weapon. I started digging. You see, while Daniel thought he had erased me, what he didn't realize was this. I still knew the company better than he ever would. I knew its skeletons, its overlooked policies, its blind spots. I had seen emails, financial statements, employee conflicts, vendor complaints. And slowly, I began connecting dots. At the heart of it was one simple realization. Daniel was reckless. He had made enemies in silence. He'd cut departments without explanation, canceled long-standing contracts, ignored compliance protocols. The finance team was overworked. HR was being pressured to silence complaints. There were murmurs about irregular bonuses, some people getting massive payouts, while others were laid off quietly. And that's when I saw my path. I wouldn't invent lies. I would reveal truths. Dangerous truths he assumed no one noticed, but I had noticed. I created a burner email, set up a fresh identity, and I began collecting every thread of data I could legally access from my personal archives, old project files, internal memos, financial trends, even whistleblower reports that were buried. But still, there was the question of how far I was willing to go. Late one night, I stared at my screen, hands trembling over a damning file, proof that Daniel had approved a contract under a false vendor name, siphoning money to a consultancy firm linked to his college roommate. I could send this to the board anonymously. I could leak it. I could destroy him in a day. But would that make me the same as him? That night, I walked outside. Cold wind hit my face like a slap, Zrenia reminding me of who I was. I sat under the stars and closed my eyes, not just thinking about revenge, but about justice, about what it really meant to win. I didn't want to just hurt Daniel. I wanted to reclaim what he stole from me, my dignity, my voice, my legacy. And suddenly I knew what to do. I wouldn't just take him down. I would rebuild something better, right in front of him. Use everything I knew, everything I had built, and turn it into a force that would not only expose him, but outshine him. And when the moment came, he would watch it all unfold, helpless. The plan wasn't born in a single moment. It grew, carefully, steadily, like a chess game played across a battlefield where only one player knew the rules. I didn't want chaos. I wanted control. And so, I started with the one thing Daniel underestimated most about me: my network. 14 years in one industry doesn't just leave you with memories. It leaves you with people, real people, old clients who respected me, ex-colleagues who owed me favors, vendors who trusted me, even former board members who had quietly stepped away after Daniel's arrival. I started making quiet calls, not revenge-filled rants, just calm, honest conversations. I'm working on something new, I told them. I want people with integrity, people tired of arrogance and short-sighted leadership. To my surprise, they didn't just listen, they leaned in. They were watching what Daniel was doing too. The layoffs, the broken contracts, the toxic culture that had started poisoning the company's core. They weren't loyal to him. They were just waiting for something else to believe in. So I gave it to them. I began laying the foundation of a consulting collective, a small focused firm that would offer exactly what my old company used to be known for: authenticity, results, and trust. No flashy gimmicks, no inflated titles, just experienced people solving real problems with heart and precision. And here's the twist: the people I was gathering, they were the very talent Daniel had ignored, discarded, or burned. People like Mia from Strategy, who had been sidelined for not fitting in, or Jordan, the financial analyst who tried warning about irregular bonus structures and got shut down. Even Ray, one of the company's oldest clients, reached out after hearing I'd been let go. "I always said you were the brains behind the magic," he told me. "Tell me where to sign." And just like that, the first brick was laid. But this wasn't enough. I needed Daniel to feel it. So I moved to the second phase, targeting his weak spots. Daniel was flashy, loud. He craved fast wins and public praise, and that made him predictable. He wanted big partnerships, but neglected the smaller, loyal clients who'd built the brand. He cut back end teams, but ignored the operational chaos it created. He boosted numbers for shareholders, but blurred ethical lines no one else dared question. That's where I struck. Using insider knowledge I legally retained and a few well-placed tips through anonymous channels, I made sure the right people started asking the right questions. Regulators, vendors, industry journalists. I didn't have to fabricate anything, just point to the smoke. Then came the article. A respected business outlet published a feature titled, "Is Titan Edge Losing Its Core?" It quoted former employees, questioned sudden financial shifts, cited confidential complaints. The board took notice. Investors got jittery. Behind the scenes, I kept building. My collective had launched, quietly, humbly, but word spread fast. Within 2 months, we signed 4 major clients. 2 of them were former clients of my old company, and they left because they were sick of Daniel's arrogance. We didn't poach, we didn't push. We just offered something real, and they came running. And then came the unexpected. One morning, I got a call from a familiar voice. It was Alicia, Daniel's executive assistant. She sounded different, hesitant. "I thought you should know," she said. "The board is calling an emergency meeting. There's a lot of heat. Someone leaked the bonus fraud files." I paused. It wasn't me. And it wasn't. I had it ready, sure. But someone else had acted first. Turns out people Daniel mistreated were more loyal to the truth than to silence. That afternoon, the news hit the industry like a shockwave. Daniel Grayson, CEO of Titan Edge, resigns amidst internal audit and leadership controversy. Just like that, he was gone. No apology, no statement, just silence. The man who thought he could erase me was now a ghost in the system he tried to control. And me? I didn't laugh. I didn't celebrate. I just stood at the window of my tiny new office, watching the sunset, feeling something I didn't expect. Peace. Because it was never about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming my power without becoming him. And I had. I never imagined I'd walk through those glass doors again. Not as an employee, not even as a guest. But here I was, standing in the very lobby where I'd once been humiliated, except this time, everything had changed. Daniel was gone. His exit wasn't dramatic. No public breakdown, no legal charges, at least not yet. Just silence and a statement from the board about leadership restructuring and realigning company values. Corporate language to mask the truth. He got caught. But what followed after his departure? That was something I couldn't have predicted. 2 days after the announcement, I got an email from the board. They wanted to meet. I expected a formality, a handshake, maybe a thank you. What I got instead was a room full of serious faces, humbled expressions, and an offer. "We'd like you to return," the chairwoman said. "Not as an employee, as a partner. Help us rebuild what was lost." For a moment, I didn't know what to say. This company, the one that once pushed me out like I never mattered, was now offering me the one thing I thought I'd never have again: respect. But I didn't accept right away. I told them I'd think about it, because part of me still carried the scars, and I needed to be sure that returning wasn't just a step backward disguised as progress. That night, I sat with Mia and Jordan, my team, my people. We talked late into the night about everything we'd built, what we stood for, and whether going back would compromise it. And then Mia said something I'll never forget. "Sometimes, the best revenge isn't walking away. It's walking back in and doing it your way." She was right. So I went back, but not as a pawn, not to reclaim a title or rub salt in anyone's wounds. I returned to rebuild what mattered: culture, trust, purpose. I didn't bring vengeance with me. I brought vision. The first thing I did, I reinstated the people Daniel had pushed out. Talented minds, good hearts, the soul of the company. I sat with every department. I listened. I apologized where apologies were due. Not for Daniel's sins, but for the silence that let them happen. We rewrote policies. We restructured leadership. And within 6 months, employee morale surged. Clients returned. The board called it one of the fastest cultural recoveries they'd seen in years. But for me, the real victory wasn't the headlines. It was the quiet moments. The intern who said, "It finally feels safe here." The engineer who whispered, "Thank you for fighting for us." And one afternoon, as I was leaving the office, Alicia, Daniel's former assistant, stopped me in the hallway. "You could have destroyed him completely," she said. "But you didn't." I looked at her and said the only thing I could: revenge loses its meaning if it costs you your soul. Looking back now, I realized this story was never really about Daniel. It was about me, about refusing to be erased, about standing back up, even when the world tries to knock you down and pretend you never existed. I learned that sometimes justice isn't loud, it's steady, patient, unshakable. And most of all, I learned that resilience is the quiet power we carry when no one's watching. It's what lets you walk back into the room that broke you, not to prove anything to them, but to prove something to yourself. To anyone out there who's ever been discarded, disrespected, replaced like you never mattered, let me say this. You are not finished. You are not forgotten. And your story isn't over until you decide how it ends. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't fire or fury. It's becoming everything they said you could never be, and doing it with grace.